Now to the government's big push to usher in clinical trials in India. The government has planned to unveil a new policy that is business-friendly but puts the safety of patients first. Vikas Dandekar and Kritika Saxena have this report.
Prospects of bringing the zing back in clinical trials in India looks bright as the government is giving final touches to a new policy. Expected to be unveiled as early as next month, a draft of the policy is shared with the stakeholders for a comment. CNBC TV 18 learns the idea is to balance the safety of patients with the need to gain speedy access to innovate life-saving treatments. Top government officials at a recent meeting of the USA-India Chamber of Commerce held at Boston told high-profile scientists that while issues around compensation norms and consent of patients are largely resolved, the new policy will help accelerate approvals and cut down duplication. A key element of the policy will be to leverage data of Indian patients who enrolled in global clinical trials. If that data is held as sufficiently representative, global drug makers may be required to do smaller bridging studies to get an approval. Also, institutional review boards will see a closer scrutiny. Another highlight of the new norms is to make it mandatory to do bioavailability and bioequivalence studies of each new generic drug introduced by companies. Considered a sunrise sector until a few years ago, clinical trials, or the method of testing newly invented drugs on patients for regulatory clearance, were almost halted by health activists who were backed by courts. The reason for the outcry? Patients tested with new drugs claimed no knowledge of the adverse effects. Worse still, enrolled patients were found to be compensated inadequately by companies or clinical research organizations. Experts feel if the new policy is put into play within a stipulated timeline, the glorious past of a decade ago may repeat in the next 4 to 5 years. In Mumbai, with Vikas Dandekar, this is Kritika Saxena.
As a tweet from the Indian Regulatory Agency noted recently, India has 17% of the world's population, 20% of the disease burden, yet less than 1.4% of global clinical trials happen in India.